Hey guys, welcome back to Adlib Talk and welcome to my second video on the Harry Potter movie series. So basically, if you've not seen part one, please make sure you do. It's very important you watch part one so you get an idea of what the whole video series is about. I'm basically talking about each Harry Potter movie. I'm covering 2 movies per video, and today I'm going to be talking about Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. But before I start with the actual video, don't forget to leave a like on this video if you do enjoy it. That would be of great support. What would also be of great support would be if you subscribe to my channel. We've hit the 100 subscriber mark. Now we're on the way to 200. Get on the train and let's get going to that 200 subscriber mark. Thank you guys, and I hope you enjoyed the video. So in 2002, it was decided that a number of things would change for the Harry Potter movies. Chris Columbus had just finished directing the second Harry Potter movie, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, but I think it was clear that a new breath of fresh air was needed, right, for the Harry Potter universe. So Chris Columbus drops out as director for the third movie, and instead the producers start looking for another director. We had Guillermo del Toro, Mark Forster, even M. Night Shyamalan, I believe, was involved in these talks. Eventually, it was going to be Guillermo del Toro, but he wanted to make it a more grown-up, a more sort of almost too mature Harry Potter, I believe. So they left him out, and eventually Alfonso Cuarón went into talks. In the beginning, it seemed like he wasn't that interested in the project, but eventually I think it was Guillermo del Toro who, in fact, talked him into reading the Harry Potter books. Cuarón really enjoyed reading those books, and he accepted to become the director. And what an incredible job he did, staying as loyal as possible to the books, but breathing fresh air into this series that is so loved by so many people. In my opinion, I'm gonna come out straight away and say it. I think Harry Potter and Prisoner of Azkaban is the best Harry Potter movie. And I know that I'm not the only one with that opinion.
Turn to page 394.
Let's start off from the beginning. So we get to see the Dursleys. It's not a very long scene. It's a very important scene. We start to see that Harry is starting to respond to the abuse and to the harassment he receives from the Dursleys. He's starting to get a little angrier. He's starting to respond, something he did not do in the previous movies and stories. So we're starting to see slowly Harry is growing up and hormones are starting to happen, right? We get an incredibly funny scene with Aunt Marge, who inflates into a massive balloon, and Harry escapes from the Dursleys and leaves, and we find him in a playground in the middle of the night, and that's an incredibly scary scene. The whole tone, it's very dark, something we did not see that much, and not even in the second movie, which started to get darker. It's a very dark tone. The sound effects are incredible. The sound design in this movie, I'll talk about it, but it's very, very well designed. And then we start with slow music, starting to make it even more tense and even scarier. And then we see that black dog, who we know is Sirius, of course, but at that point of the movie, unless you've read the books, you wouldn't know that. And again, that is a purveyor of danger, right? The Grim Reaper. So there's this general feeling of dread which starts off from the very beginning of the movie and which continues through most of the movie. Yes, Harry Potter is starting to get darker. It is this incredible start to the movie that completely sets the tone. From the get-go, the cinematography and editing is at another level. From the previous 2 movies, it's clear that Alfonso Cuarón is a master of his craft. I am a big lover of this director, and I think it's clear why, from what I'm telling you right now and from what I'm going to continue telling you. There are some incredible moments throughout this scene that I just described with Harry in that playground. The arrival of the night bus, the editing of that night bus scene is so assuredly done, so impressive. It's incredible. It's very, very well done. But not just that, we've got some very beautiful cinematography and filming. The Buckbeak flight scene is absolutely gorgeous, brilliant stuff. And my favorite scene is actually the arrival, the first time we actually meet the Dementors on the Hogwarts Express. Harry, Ron, Hermione, and a sleeping Lupin are sitting in their carriage. The Dementors enter into the train, into the Hogwarts Express, and they start opening the door of their carriage, and it's just the tension is palpable. There is incredible feeling of dread, and we start to understand what Harry's feeling just by the way it's portrayed, just by the way the scene is shot and edited. This is incredible stuff, something we've not seen before from a Harry Potter movie. Despite there being a constant sense of dread, a constant feeling of, there is a threat out there, and the sort of unseen threat of Sirius Black and the seen threat of the Dementors serves very well in this department. It's still also one of the funniest Harry Potter movies. So I think Alfonso Cuarón's greatest achievement in this movie is how he managed to balance out the darkness, the dark threat, and this is a very heavy movie. It starts to get quite heavy, especially when we start to sort of look at certain themes like revenge and so on. I'll be talking about themes very soon. But then you've also got the happy element of Harry Potter. This is still a kids' movie after all. We still got magic to learn, and there are some very funny scenes with Remus as Remus teaches them certain spells. And so the way Cuarón balances these two elements is excellent, and is something we definitely do not see in the fourth movie, as I will explain very soon. Another incredible achievement by Cuarón in this movie is the lighting. The lighting in this movie is excellent. Let me go back to that previous scene where Harry is sitting on his own in the playground. Just the way the scene is set up and the lighting used is excellent. The lighting throughout is of incredible quality, and I was really impressed. Now listen here, Hogwarts is much bigger than from the first two movies. It's clear there are new locations. I believe it was mentioned around 40% larger than what we've ever seen so far. And it's clear that Hogwarts not only is a bigger place, but also a much more realistic place. It's a place where hundreds of students go to learn magic. But even though they are learning magic, they're still students. They are still teenagers and kids. So I enjoyed, for example, the fact that these students did not always stay in their robes, but wore casual clothing when they're not learning, which is, something you would expect in a school like this. Thematically, the movie deals with some heavy stuff like I've, mentioned previously. We've talking about things like revenge, things like death, betrayal, and so on. This is a kids' movie after all. This is a children's movie, but grown-ups can definitely enjoy it. And as I watched it, I was impressed just by how engrossed I was still in this movie, even though I'm no longer a teenager. The casting is excellent. What amazing actors were selected for this movie, and how well they fit into their characters. Gary Oldman, David Thewlis, Emma Thompson, Michael Gambon. Well, Michael Gambon I'll be discussing very soon. Not everyone is perfectly casted, but overall, I think they did a very good job in that department. And what about our favorite three witches and wizards? Emma Watson, Rupert Grint, and Daniel Radcliffe. They're starting to mature, right? 4 years have passed now since the first movie, because the first one was filmed in 2001, second one in 2002, and then they had a 18-month period until they filmed it. So they're starting to grow a little older, and by now they're starting to mature, and they can bring at least some depth to their characters, which was previously unimaginable, right, for kids their age. Now, mind you, the performances are still nothing to write home about, but overall, it's an improvement, definitely from the first one, where we saw some pretty awful acting. Although, like I mentioned in my first video, I don't really like to judge child actors too harshly. They're child actors after all. Daniel Radcliffe is obviously given the most material to work with, and there are some moments where I felt some true emotion portrayed by him. Especially, there's a sense of fear and a sense of anger during certain scenes, which came out, quite well, acceptable at least. The one performance that I really did not enjoy, or rather, I think it was more to do with the interpretation of the character, was Michael Gambon as Dumbledore. Now, let me be clear, Michael Gambon is an incredible actor. Let's get that out of the way. But there was just a feeling that you could never reach the level of Richard Harris. And he tries to go his own way. Fair enough, that's the right way to do it. But he tried to make it too different, in my opinion. Dumbledore is not, the kind of person who's going to run around and be fierce and shout and slam Ron's leg. And there are a lot of scenes which I do not feel like that's something Dumbledore would do. Dumbledore is a calm presence. He's calm. He's, composed. Yes, he's a powerful wizard, but still, he's a calm person. And in this movie, he's running around. He's hectic. It's like he has no idea what's going on. I don't know. It just did not work for me. On the other hand, we have an incredible Gary Oldman who, despite not being physically what I completely expected of Sirius, I expected Sirius to be much broader, much bigger, much taller. He still gives us a great performance as Sirius, and he manages to portray that scary side of the character excellently. There are some very chilling moments with Sirius involved, but also when he was asked to show a more heartwarming side towards Sirius, he was very good there as well. There's one very emotional scene at the end between Harry and Sirius, where Sirius offers to take care of Harry during the summer, and I almost shed a tear in that scene. There's a lot of baggage behind that question. Harry dreads going back to Dursleys. Unfortunately, that plan is ruined by none other than Sirius's best friend Remus. And this leads me on to David Thewlis's performance, who, as Remus, is also very good. Again, Remus and Harry have some very good moments together, especially when they talk about Harry's parents. That scene in particular on the bridge, very excellently done, very emotional, very good. The plot and storytelling takes certain complexities that the first two movies definitely did not have. I have to comment about the time traveling. I think it was very well done, much better than most movies with time travel. Something I always emphasize in a time traveling movie: ignore the explanation. Don't even try to explain it. You can't. You'll just get bogged down. Just go with the action and, let it take you wherever you want. Just make sure it's consistent and it sort of makes sense in a way. But try not to explain it. And I'm glad that Cuarón did not even try to explain it. He just went with the flow, went with the action. He does do a Nolan by adding the sound effect of a clock ticking, which adds to the tension of the scenes, reminding us that one of the main enemies that these two kids, Harry and Hermione in this case, because Ron is not involved in the time traveling scene, are battling against is actually time itself, which was excellent, added to the tension, and was very complimentary to the whole scene. Talking about sound effects is a great segue to talk about the soundtrack. Now, I know I barely mentioned it, if at all, I think, in the first video. So it's important to mention it here because just like in the first two movies, we have Williams, who gives us another delightful score. It's not perfect, mind you. I prefer it to the first two movies, but something I think was lacking in this third score was a continuation to the themes from the first two movies. Now, I know Alfonso Cuarón wanted to make a completely different score, and Williams was on board with that. But I feel that when you have a series of movies, you want to make the soundtrack as cohesive and as consistent as possible. It's not the case here. We've lost many of our beloved themes, like, for example, Hedwig's theme from the first two movies. Instead, we get certain music, which is very good, mind you. Buckbeak's Flight was very, very good. A Window to the Past, I believe it's called, is another very, very good theme. Look them up. Very good music. And whilst they're beautiful and you enjoy listening to them, but they're not consistent with the first two soundtracks for the first two movies. So there's that which I dislike, but at the same time, I really enjoy the music. So make of it what you wish. Now, whilst being the least faithful to the books when compared with the first two, The Prisoner of Azkaban breathes new life into the Harry Potter universe. It was a much needed change of pace and change of style to directing the Harry Potter movies. It has by now, in my opinion, achieved classic status, not only as the greatest Harry Potter movie, but also, in my opinion, as one of the greatest movies of 2000s, in my, mind you, very biased opinion.